We welcome all our viewers throughout the world on MPC. This is the big conversation program. Today we have Mr. Ngqabutho Mabhena. Mr. Mabhena is a social and political activist based in South Africa. His presence has been felt far and wide. It's been very, very helpful, particularly in the social side or community side, where he has been helping Zimbabweans with their documentation. Today, we hope that with his scientific tools of analysis, he will help us understand what has gone wrong in Zimbabwe. We welcome you, Mr. Mabhena.
Thank you so much. Greetings to you and greeting to your viewers.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, I think there will be two basic things that I would like us to touch on. First, your community work and your political activism. Okay, let us start with your political activism, your political journey. If you don't mind, if you can tell us where you started from up to where you are now.
Well, I started mainly in the movement for democratic change. We were part of the formation of the MDC, which established in 1997 in Johannesburg, what was called the Consultative Council of Zimbabwe. The Consultative Council of Zimbabwe was a consultative body that sought to find a solution to saying, how do we address the political economic crisis in Zimbabwe? What should be the vehicle in addressing that? So we set ourselves to consult the generality of Zimbabweans. The targeted groups were trade unions, residents associations, political formations, and the other stakeholders. It was at that time in 1997-98 that we began in the main to work with the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, to work with the National Constituent Assembly, who at the same time were also carrying out some consultative work. So we then resolved in 1999 that after carrying out the consultation inside Zimbabwe and in South Africa, we felt that it was necessary for us to be part of the formation of the movement for democratic change. So we were a part of the founding people in 1999 of the MDC.
You can just give us a chronology up to where you are now. You have told us about the MDC. After the MDC, where did you go to?
Well, as I've said, that the MDC being founded in 1999, we're part of the founding of the MDC. I became the founding chairperson of the MDC in South Africa, and I became its representative and information officer. I was assigned mostly to deal with the media, where I would act as a spokesperson, so to speak, when the split occurred in 2005, which is recorded. I will not go to the details of the split, but we then were part of the MDC that was then led by Professor Atam Tambara in 2005. I relocated to Zimbabwe in 2011, where I worked for Joint Monitoring and Implementation Committee, JOMIC, as part of the implementation of the Global Political Agreement, which had been signed in 20, I can't remember the dates now, in 2008, 12 September 2008.
Yeah.
But before then, I'd sought to relocate in 2008 to Zimbabwe. I contested the primary elections in the MDC in my constituency, Umzingwane. What then became problematic was that the structures had resolved that then Member of Parliament Nomalanga Khumalo was to retain her candidature for the 2008. So then there was a what was available was the Senate. At the time, I was 38, I was in 40, because the law required that for one to contest as a Senate, one had to be 14. But there was then a comradely agreement which was not signed, that no, you are free to contest the primaries in the Senate. Once you win in the primaries, you will then swap with the Honorable Nomalanga Khumalo. She becomes the senatorial candidate and I become the MP candidate. I went on to win the primary elections in the party, but that comradely agreement, which was not signed, was then not honored. So I couldn't, even though I'd won, I couldn't represent the party as a candidate. Honorable Kembo Dube, who was number 2, because there were 4 contestants, then he went on to represent the party and became the senator for Umzingwane and Nomalanga Khumalo, retaining her position. I then, as I've said, went back in 2011. I stayed in Zimbabwe to about 2014. I then became the official party candidate. Were known at the time MTC Green. In 2013. Unfortunately, I lost the elections. I'm not sure whether there was rigging or whatever happened, but I lost the elections. I accepted. After we lost the elections, I then in
but 2014. Do you think you won the elections?
No, I lost the elections.
What were the issues? Why did you lose? What do you think made you to lose?
We lost the elections on the basis that the people of Umzingwane and the greater part of Matabele land were saying to us that their focus was to win the presidential elections. They wanted a candidate that would remove Robert Mugabe from power through an electoral process, and they didn't think that our presidential candidate, Professor Washman Ngqube, then did have the stamina to do such or to win the majority of support outside Matabele land. So they were persuading us to vote for or Morgan Tsvangirai. And they said openly to me, some of them, that if I wanted to be a member of parliament for Umzingwane constituency, I should join the MTC led by Morgan Tsvangirai. I had my own principles of not joining the MTC led by Morgan Tsvangirai. So I guess I paid the price by not taking that advice, which I accepted because I came number 3. ZANU-PF won in 2013, followed by MTCT, which was their candidate, Nomalanga Khumalo, and myself at number 3. Then in 2014, I left the country. I came back to South Africa in May, and I was appointed in the MTC. I was a member of the National Executive because I was voted at the Congress in 2011 in Harare. I was then appointed as the Secretary for Water. Later on, I think it was 2016, I was then appointed the Secretary for International Relations. I was already based in South Africa. But you know, when I joined the MTC, I was always a leftist or a communist or an aspirant communist, because we always aspire to be communist. So on the 20th of June 2015, we held a seminar in Bulawayo, a Marxist-Leninist seminar under the theme, "Is Zimbabwe ready for a vanguard of the working class?" The seminar was attended about 30 people drawn from leftist formations and your local communities in Zimbabwe. We then resolved that we needed to establish the Zimbabwe Communist Party in 2 years' time, or at least a Communist Party. At that time, I was still a member of the National Executive Committee of the MTC. In 2017, we then, on the 28th April, we established the Zimbabwe Communist Party, though I did not manage to attend the founding conference because when we were driving to Bulawayo for the conference, I was held with comrades at the border. Myself, Comrade Ian Pitos, our National Commissar, Comrade Alex Mashilo, the spokesperson of the South African Communist Party, were prevented from attending. We were arrested at about 5 a.m. On the day of the founding conference, only released at about 7 p.m. So my two comrades had to go back to South Africa, then proceeded to Zimbabwe. Then on the 3rd of May, because the MTC did not allow dual membership, I had a discussion with the late Secretary General of the MTC, Miriam Mushai, because in the founding conference, which I did not attend, I was then elected General Secretary. So it became problematic that I held a position as General Secretary in the Zimbabwe Communist Party and also Secretary for International Relations. The Zimbabwe Communist Party had taken a position that it accepts dual membership, but any senior member, a person like myself, who was then elected General Secretary, could not hold a party position in any other political formation. Whereas that means from the ZCP point of view, I needed to resign my position in the MTC, but not necessarily my membership. But from the point of view of the MTC, I couldn't hold two membership because it didn't allow dual membership. So I had to make a decision. So I made a decision. I resigned my membership of the MTC on the 3rd of May, 2017. We then went on to hold the first Congress of the Zimbabwe Communist Party in Bulawayo in 2019 in December, where at Congress I was elected General Secretary. This is where we are.
So the MTC did not allow dual membership. Does that mean if they had allowed you, or even if ZCP had allowed senior members to hold dual membership, you were going to still be part of the MTC and part of the ZCP?
The ZCP does allow dual membership up to this point. It does allow dual membership. What it did not allow was that I could not, a senior member cannot hold a political position in ZCP and a political position in another political formation. But you can keep your membership of the other party, whereas the MTC said you cannot hold two memberships. So assuming then to your question that had the MTC allowed such, I do not think I would have resigned in May 2017. I am not sure though, later on when there was the MTC alliance, when the party that I belonged to then joined the alliance, we have written extensively in critiquing the MTC Alliance Manifesto in 2018 that it is neoliberal. So I am not sure if I would have stayed in the MTC, that would be, I would be making an assumption. But generally, I would not have resigned on the 3rd of May 2017. That's the long and shortest of it.
Necessitated the of the Zimbabwe Communist Party.
The struggle of the workers historically has always been hijacked in Zimbabwe, dating back to the liberation struggle. It is the working class in Zimbabwe that founded the National Liberation Movement, your ANC, UNDP, ZAPU, which were later on hijacked by the political elite. The MTC itself, it was founded by the working class, which then was later hijacked by reactionaries. This is why I'm saying I'm not very sure if beyond 2018 I would have remained a member of the MTC had that not been problematic in terms of dual membership because of its stance, its neoliberal stance that it is now advocating for, or that it is taking. So the the Zimbabwe Communist Party, it is very necessary to advance the cause of the working class and the peasants, to play its vanguard role, to develop cadres within the mass formations in Zimbabwe, within the broader civil society. We need to build a progressive civil society that is anti-imperialist, that is anti the looting class. We have defined ours as a strike against anti-imperialist and anti the comprador bourgeois.
What is the working class?
There's a small difference between the working class and the workers in that a worker wakes up in the morning, month end, we're approaching month end, is expecting to be paid by a boss. But when we speak of the working class in its broader sense, those that are in the informal sector, those that should be economically active, as workers who have been retrenched in companies, we consider all those the working class, the unemployed and so forth. So we use a broader term, the working class. But then this is why you will find that in the International Labour Organization in 2015 resolved that those in the informal sector should join or affiliate to trade unions. The Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions has resolved that in line with the resolution, that those in the informal sector could now become members of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, because you will agree with us that close to about 90% or so of the working people in Zimbabwe are in the formal economy.
Yeah. You have said the struggle for the people has been hijacked, or since the liberation struggle. Now the Zimbabwe Communist Party, how does it intend to correct that anomaly?
Firstly, we need to raise class consciousness. That is our key task, to raise class consciousness within the working class, within the peasantry. We do so through their organizations, the trade union movement in the main, in cities, informal sector organizations, residents associations, rural-based organizations, women's organizations, youth organizations. Because the Zimbabwe Communist Party, why I was saying it is a vanguard, I see that the South African Party has a large membership. Others might argue that the South African Communist Party is a large political formation, but it is not a mass. We are not a mass movement, and we have no intention at this stage to build a mass movement. We are professional revolutionaries schooled in Marxist-Leninist theory. The mass is with these formations. Your trade union movement, they have the mass. Residents associations, rural-based organizations, they have the mass. Our vanguard role, therefore, is to raise their class consciousness and assist them in defining the struggle in Zimbabwe. What is it that we are fighting for? What is it that we are fighting against?
Okay, your aim is to raise the class consciousness. Then when people are conscious, what do you expect will happen in the future? And what will be the role of ZCP?
We exist to capture the state. Because the role of any political party, for that matter, communist party, is to capture the state. And not only to capture the state, but to society. But you cannot, as we have always argued, that socialism is not like pressing a button that you transit from where we are in a deep state, and then you press a button, you transit to socialism. You build blocks. There are blocks that you need to build towards the transition to socialism. So you need, therefore, to have a class conscious working class. You need to have a class conscious peasant for you to transit to socialism. Just to give you an example, some country in South America, when a socialist party came into power, it went on to give keki to villagers in the name of socialism. What did villagers do? Every day they were having a party, slaughtering keki, because they thought that socialism is about giving everything for free. And the keki obviously ran out. They couldn't get in. Government could not keep on providing because the keki were no longer there. So if you do not raise the class consciousness of society, you cannot transit to socialism. And the socialism is scientific. You cannot just go to parliament and decree that today we are now a socialist society. It cannot be. So it is critical that we raise cadres within these mass formations. And we have said that assuming the Zimbabwe Communist Party were to form a government in the next few years, you cannot transit to socialism. You need the building blocks I'm talking to is that the immediate task is to build a democratic economy, what we call the national democratic economy, linked to devolution of power to the people, guided by the national plan.
Okay. In terms of your planning and timeframes, when do you think you will start participating in elections?
We certainly, firstly, let me just clarify that as the Communist Party, we're an organ of the working class and peasants. Mm-hmm. So on our own independently, while we have a right to take our independent decisions, but on the question of participating in an election as an organ of the working class and the peasantry, we cannot do so alone. What we are doing as we raise class consciousness, work with organized labor, different organizations, we will at some point have a conference together to decide on our attitude to elections. We resolved that in August 2022, we are going to have a congress, a special congress, to decide on how we should approach the 2023 elections, whether we support any candidates on constituency based, even if they are from a different political parties, whether we support any political party that we think is closer to us ideologically. So it is going to be, it's a consultative process. So whenever we decide to participate in an election that is contesting state power through an election, the working class and peasant will have a say on how this should be achieved.
Okay, as a revolutionary party, I think that's what you said it is. Do you think yes, maybe if elections do not work,
we existed to contest for state power, the only route to state power? I'm not sure other routes that are there, but if there are other routes that will assist us to get to state power, we'll certainly explore those. But the primary objective now is to raise the class consciousness of the working class and peasants, so that whatever route we take, it is not a route that is imposed to our class allies.
Okay. Sometimes people say communist parties are too theoretical. They do not really work with the issues. And to me, what is your position as ZCP on the issue of the marginalization against Matabele land, the tribal bigotry against the people of Matabele land? What is your position as
Our position is very clear, is that ZANU-PF regime is practicing what we call ethnic patronage. Ethnic patronage in the sense that which is used to divide the working class and peasantry. Ethnic patronage means that a person from Mrewa would go to Mzingwane, my village, as a teacher to teach grade 1, and in my village everyone speaks isiNdebele. So when you bring someone from Rewa to come and teach, we know the end result is that these kids will not pass. We are opposed to that. That is ethnic patronage, and they will not accept such, and we are opposed to it. Just as the communities in Chimanimani will not accept me to go there and teach their kids at grade 1 because I have challenges in conversing in the local language then. So they will have the right to be opposed to such. And so our position is that in terms of our analysis, yes, Matabele is marginalized. We've been doing an analysis in terms of employment in the public sector in the main. We've been doing an analysis in terms of business opportunities, in terms of funding. I personally went to How Mine, which is in my constituency, where I found out that 975 workers are employed then. Of the 975 workers, 600 workers are not from Umzingwane or from Matabele and South. They were mainly from Manicaland. That on its own is problematic. We reject such. We reject the deployment of people at the port of entry, be it Plumtree, be it Bedbridge, who are not from there, from the local communities. This is why we're saying devolution of power linked to the people. The people must take charge of their own resources. So we reject that. But broadly speaking, you have a political elite, the looters, that loots resources, be it Matabele land, be it Manica land, be it Mashona land. This is why even the voting patterns in Zimbabwe reflect such. When you start the voting patterns, you will realize that in the last 20 years, the urbanites are voting for the MDC, the rural people are voting for ZANU-PF. My own rejection in 2013 was on the basis that my own people on Mzingwane felt comfortable in being led by Morgan Tsvangirai as opposed to being led by Professor Mr Ngqabutho or the late Dr. Dumiso Dabengwa. When we had Simba Makoni, Dr. Simba Makoni is our presidential candidate in 2008, we won at least 10 seats, were part of the inclusive government. But when with men from Midlands, Professor Mr Ngqabutho, it became different altogether. So while, because also this morning I've been answering this question of why we give support to other communities, be it Somaliland, be it Western Sahara, be it Southern Cameroon, but we're not doing so with respect to Mtogas. If you visit my first page, it is a discussion that is ongoing. So we have not, while we all of us understand these challenges, we have not come gathering as the people of Matabele and to say how this Putejo is going to provide the clarity on how to attend to the problems that affect the people of Matabele and Midlands.
Okay, yeah, no, at least now you've clarified that issue. Thanks very much for that. There is this program which is ongoing right now, the exhumations and the reburials of those who were butchered during the Gukurahundi era. You, as ZCP, what is your position on that?
Firstly, President Emmerson Mnangagwa must answer in a court of law. The perpetrators must answer in a court of law. What we then should be engaging on, whether is the Zimbabwe justice system, I'm not sure the word to use, is it capable to provide that platform for him to answer to his role in the atrocities whether the African court is the right platform to answer or the Hague, but he has to answer for his role in the atrocities. We do not believe that by meeting some selected individuals at the State House in Bulawayo, be it local leadership, the traditional leadership, the civil society leadership, that should be the answer. No. I mean, if a genocide, if you can arrest a person for mistakenly killing another person, which you always see daily, someone you will shoot at your home if you have a gun, you shoot someone, you realize you have shot your son because he didn't have a key, decided to jump the wall and you thought it was an intruder. But when you then train an army, a military army with the purposes of committing a genocide, you cannot therefore at the same time tell us the solution, preside over the solution. What you need to do is to go to a court of law, answer for what happened, then the victims and at the same time will then decide on what should happen, whether it's compensation, what form of compensation, whether you need to be pardoned, but at least the perpetrators of Kukuraundi must appear in a court of law and the answer to their crimes.
Okay, no, thanks. In terms of your feeling and assessment of the strength of Zimbabwe Communist Party, where do you place it right now in terms of your objectives and goals? Do you think you are making any strides forward?
In terms of numbers, we are very small. We are less than 200 in terms of numbers. We are very, very small. This is why we will not talk of contesting an election, because an election is a game of numbers. We would not want to fool ourselves. We are for scientific socialism. So if we can't understand as communists the voting patterns in Zimbabwe, what a party needs to win an election, and then we fool ourselves, and then we say we're going to contest and win an election. But we had a huge influence in terms of providing theoretical guidance. We produce our theoretical journal called the Vanguard, which is widely read not only in Zimbabwe, everywhere. The biggest challenge, though, is that we are unable to print copies, so it is always available online. We are getting reports from those that are reading our theory that at least there's clarity. Secondly, we are beginning now to produce educational material for the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions and the other trade unions. What we have not done, which we think probably in 2021 will be able to do, would be to physically be at the workplace with the shop stewards in the informal sector, have this political education. And of course, when we talk of political education, people at times think that will be going to communities to tell them about Karl Marx, to tell them about Lenin. If you go to Ngqabutho, you need to engage people at their level, to break down the theory to their level, because someone selling at Ngqabutho, they are worried about whether they are able to make a profit from the oranges or tomatoes that they sell. So you need then to develop cadres that will be able to assist them in understanding and running a business, so that they will continue selling in Ngqabutho and making profitable to support their families. But then you also need to understand why young people, graduates, are at Ngqabutho, not in industries, why our factories are today places of worship as opposed to places of production. So we need to break down the theory. So in the last 2 years or so, we have been developing cadres to understand the theory, Marxist, Leninist. The biggest challenge that we now have is to go back to communities and break down the ideology, so that the people that were resettled in farms, the people in villages, will then begin to understand that, yes, nasi sando lesigela. When we were young, I remember in 1979, we used to sing the song Yini Socialism, and everyone sang it in the village, because the freedom fighters were able to break down the ideology to the level of the ordinary person at a lower level in the community.
Okay, no, that's cool. That's cool. Maybe if we can move on now and talk about your work as a communist, as a community activist